Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1. This is the bundle that's coming out in, let me see, end of October, just like everything else. But it has Metal Gear Solid 1, Metal Gear Solid 2, Metal Gear Solid 3, Metal Gear 2, and this is the fun twist, Snake's Revenge, which is the sequel to the NES version of Metal Gear 1, which Kojima shunned forever. But now that Kojima's gone, they're bringing out the freak show. Let's get Snake's Revenge, put it in that bundle. And then it also has like VR missions, special missions, Metal Gear Solid Integral, a lot of stuff from the PS1 packed in there.
Yeah, it's basically, was it Metal Gear Solid 2 Substance and then Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence, right? Those are basically the versions they're going to have on there.
Yeah, yeah. So I flew to New York for a Konami preview event where I actually got to play the Master Collection on Nintendo Switch, which I thought was really interesting. They only had it on Switch. Every station was just the Switch version of this, even though it's releasing on everything.
That's the only one I want to know about, if I'm being fully honest.
Right.
You know?
Overall, super excited to have Metal Gear Solid come back. I can't wait to jump back into these games because I didn't even play the HD collections. I was like, I'll get back to it at some point. But it's been a long time since I've played some of these games, and they're some of my favorites of all time. So a lot of good news, bad news situation. Kyle, it's cool to have these games on the Switch. Bad news.
Great, I'm in.
The games aren't really on the cartridge if you're a physical kind of guy. Okay. So the cartridge itself has, I think, just like the MSX and NES games. And then
that's all they could fit on there. Yeah.
It's confusing. And then you're actually downloading and installing all of the other games. And so they're all like separate launchers on your Switch. And so I asked a Konami rep there, the director of brand marketing, for more details on that. And he said, yeah, for the other systems, a lot more content will be directly on the disc. So even for like the PlayStation and Xbox version, it's still not everything just bundled on that disc. You will need to download like language packs and then whole games. Also, it's running at 720 on the Switch, which people were frustrated by. It'll be running at 1080 60 on other platforms, but I think it's 720 30.
They did. There's been a lot of conflicting information on this.
Yeah.
Konami officially said today that all the platforms except for the Switch are 1080 60, and the Switch docked, they said, will be 1080 30. And then in handheld, in handheld it will be 720 30.
Okay. Well, also, not final. I don't think. We're getting close to the release date here, but they're like, it's not really final. But Metal Gear Solid 3 in particular, it wasn't choppy with the frame rate, but it would just run really slow. Like, I'm talking like third screen in, just running through the grass. You could just test it by like doing like the kick punch combo as Snake. And so I'd be running around, go, ha 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 ha, and then just running through the grass, I would do a kick punch. You'd be like, ha, ha. Like everything would just be going in slow motion, which was really bizarre. Like I was bracing for them to like give us a heads up on that. Be like, it's not final, but they didn't really say anything about it. So maybe be a little wary of the Switch version of this thing, but wait for reviews to actually hit for this. But yeah, it's exciting that it's coming back. It's a confusing thing because of the messaging of what's in here and what's not. So if you remember, Metal Gear Solid 2 and, gosh, I forget if 3 was pulled down from Good Old Games on that storefront because of the licenses, and Haley, you might be an expert in this, the licenses for like the live action videos that are in those games are saying that they had to pull it down for that reason, but we'll put it back up soon. And so then this is going to be the version that will be available digitally is this. And so I asked him a bunch like, did you get the rights to the live action? What happened there? And the framing, and it was a little confusing jumping around to a bunch of different spokespeople, but the phrasing that they were saying is, let's see, at their core, these are nearly identical to the HD collection. They are, quote, fundamentally the same. And so I kept asking, like, is all the live action stuff in there? And they're like, as far as I know, I haven't heard from Konami HQ that it's not. So as far as I know, it's in there. So they had a list of stuff that was going to be cut this time around and tweaks. They said, they're like, hey, we got all the gun names. Those are all in there. That was a battle, but we did it. There's stuff like posters. Some posters have changed. Some magazines have changed in there that they didn't get the license to. They also said that like there was some stuff that there was a copyright on before that they realized they didn't need the copyright for. So they're removing that, which was a confusing phrasing. But then the interesting one is they said the ghost photos are not going to be in Metal Gear Solid 1, which is interesting. If you remember Metal Gear Solid 1, if you took photos of different parts of the environment with the camera, it would show a picture of the development team for Metal Gear Solid 1, like Kojima and everybody else. And so I'd imagine legally that's just a mess to go back to that original development team and get the sign off on that. So Kojima's in the credits. Like, they haven't altered any of the credits for the game, but they are stripping him and the development team, their physical pictures, out of there for the ghost photos.
I imagine they would have said if this isn't in there, but the music in Metal Gear Solid 2 was like a point of contention. Is that all good?
I mean, yeah, if it's in the HD collection, it's going to be in there. That seems like a huge one that they would have pointed out, but that seems to be the big changes here is just ghost photos are going to be out, and then a couple of small tweaks here and there, but basically it's the HD collection. But it was so weird to go to this preview event and like, my number one question about it is like, I wonder what the credits look like. Like, how much are they going to acknowledge Kojima? And so immediately jumped right to the credits here. I noticed like a lot of other people in the press, they did the same thing. It's such a dorky, petty thing, it seems like. But you go in there and you roll credits, and it's just the credits for the Master Collection. So it shows like that full dev team. And then there's a whole special thanks section. I'm like, well, this is clearly where they're going to shout out Kojima and the rest of the development team. And no, nothing specific. At the end, after that, it says like, how is it? Thanks to all original Metal Gear series staff and fans. So, but all the credits are still intact.
Contributors.
That's right.
Staff, fans.
So, I'm in the credits is what you're saying? Alongside Hideo Kojima?
Absolutely. But I mean, the original game's credits are still in there just for this overall package. That's the way that they're making it work.
See,
and stuff.
That's weird to me that it seems like it sounds like their agreements were really well drafted and they didn't get like personality rights locked away. So like the photos of the employees and stuff.
Right.
That's not intellectual property. That's like personality rights, like your face on things. So they probably never got their employees to sign away their personality rights, so now they can't do that. Or the actors even too. They probably like just didn't draft those right. And then, but they got all of them to waive their moral right to a credit, which is like another very specific thing you have to do. So it sounds like they messed up some things and did some other things. And so they lost some stuff, but still get to not credit them, I guess.
The moral right, it's called, just to have your name in the credits?
It's the right of attribution, which is like, so there's economic rights and moral rights. Economic is like reproducing it, translating it, making money off of it, commercializing it. And then the moral rights never leave the creator. So no matter what you do, you can never transfer your moral right away. So the right of attribution and the right for like it to be presented in the way you want. But you can waive those moral rights. So you can never come back and like attest them. So those people still have the moral right in the game, but they can't come back and say, I don't like the way that you're making that look right now, because they would have waived their moral rights. And so that also waives any ability to like have a credit, unless they have a provision that says you are required to have a credit in this and every future iteration of the game. Yeah. Conversion, port, blah, 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 like all those words, which they didn't have for him, I suppose.
Yeah. Haley McLean, ladies and gentlemen. Haley McLean. Come on.
That's what I do all day.
Love it. I love it. So talking to the director of brand marketing, believe it or not, it was like, you know, they're pretty tight and only talking about volume 1. Like, we're also excited about Metal Gear Solid Delta. We'll be talking about more of that in the future, all that stuff. But I asked him, like, you know, about, could Twin Snakes ever come to a future volume pack of Metal Gear Solid? And I asked him, like, are there any games that are ruled out? And, you know, it's a little bit of a stock answer, but he's like, I'm not going to rule out any Metal Gear games for future collections if they happen, you know, which is nice that at least right now that's the way they're framing it. And so he was also, is interesting, he was framing it a lot from Konami's recent experience of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga collection, which, if you remember that, just had an unbelievable amount of like behind the scenes footage and like original sketches. And it was, we talked about it on this podcast a lot, but it was just an incredible package. And so they were framing it a lot from like, oh, it's a little bit like the Cowabunga collection, everything that's in volume 1 for the Master Collection here. And it's like, not quite. Like in terms of the behind the scenes stuff for Metal Gear Solid, like they said, there's nothing in here that you technically haven't seen before. There's like a master book that goes through like the history of Metal Gear Solid and stuff, but there's no like never seen before art. They have like a digital soundtrack in there, but it has like 20 tracks across the entire series. It doesn't have like every song in it or anything. It's cool stuff to have in there, but nothing too mind-blowing. They have like the scripts for the games, which is probably the coolest part if you want to leaf through the Metal Gear Solid scripts and stuff. But it's not exactly the deep dive into the archival history of Metal Gear that I'm sure some fans would want. And I did ask him about, did you try? Are there still archives? Is Konami keeping a lot of early concept art, stuff like that? And he's like, I don't know anything about that. Haven't heard anything from HQ on that. But, it seems like a cool package, but it's just interesting to see going into this, like the big test is just how much does Konami care about Metal Gear in this day and age? And based on this package, which is kind of just the HD collection thrown in there and a couple of other bonus things, it feels like a medium amount. So Metal Gear fans rejoice.
If you thought, hey, this video wasn't bad, well, there's a whole lot more like it on MinnMax's YouTube channel. Please help us out by subscribing to our channel and checking out the MinnMax Show podcast, also available on your favorite podcast app, the best, most thorough discussion about games on the internet with the deepest dive, our monthly community trivia show with prizes called Trivia Tower, and a whole lot more. Thanks so much for your support, everybody. All you gotta do is click that subscribe button. We'd really appreciate it.